Have you ever been there? You're sitting in a meeting, maybe it's a virtual one these days, and you have this killer idea.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that you know will actually solve the client's problem or streamline that internal process, but you just feel this heavy cloak of non-authority just sort of descend.
Right.
You know, you have the competence, you have the ambition, but you just don't have the job title. You don't have the positional power to actually make the call.
And it feels like you're perpetually waiting for permission to be great.
Exactly that. Waiting for permission.
It's probably the defining frustration for so many professionals today.
Mm-hmm.
That feeling of being stuck in the middle, the messy middle as some people call it.
Yeah.
And that feeling of waiting, that is precisely the psychological barrier we're going to tear down today. We're doing a deep dive into the source material around Clay Strogan's book, How to Lead When You're Not in Charge.
A book that really just upends the whole traditional top-down view of hierarchy and leadership. Okay, so let's unpack that right away. Because the title itself suggests a kind of, I don't know, a subtle corporate revolution.
It does.
The core premise is deceptively simple. It's this: leadership is not the same thing as authority.
And when you first hear that, it can almost sound like semantics, right? Like, okay, sure. But it fundamentally changes how you approach your job day to day.
It's a powerful reframing.
It is. Scroggins basically argues that if you wait until you have the corner office, the senior VP title, to start behaving like a leader,
Yeah.
well, you've missed the entire point.
You've missed how you get there in the first place.
Exactly. The central critique is that if you condition your ability to lead on having a formal title, you probably won't ever get that title. You haven't proven you can lead without it.
So it's about shifting the mindset from passively waiting for that permission slip
to actively seeking influence right where you are today.
I think we all recognize that feeling of being capped by your position.
Right.
Who exactly is this kind of manifesto for? Because I suspect everyone listening has felt this at some point.
Oh, for sure. The sources suggest this message resonates most profoundly with those people in that messy middle.
Tell me more about the messy middle.
We're talking about, say, mid-level managers who are constantly squeezed between these big directives from executives and the actual reality their teams are facing on the ground.
They're translators, basically.
They're translators, exactly. But it's also for those ambitious, younger professionals who feel like their great ideas are just hitting a brick wall because they're too junior.
Right.
It's really for anyone suffering from what Scroggins calls waiting passively syndrome. This is like a handbook for navigating that paradox of having tons of responsibility, but not the authority to match.
Okay, so let's dive into that first foundational shift. If we agree authority isn't the key, we have to completely redefine leadership.
Do.
The first crucial takeaway is debunking what he calls the myth of authority. Now, that sounds great in theory, but in a cynical, hierarchical company, how does a junior person start building influence without a single title to back them up?
That is the right question, because authority is tangible. You can see it on an org chart. Influence is invisible until it changes an outcome.
Right.
So Scroggins draws this sharp, really necessary line between the two. Authority, he says, is something that's granted to you. It's given by a boss, by the system.
It's external.
It's external and it's conditional. You could lose it the second you get fired or your team gets reorganized. He calls it alone.
Alone, I like that. So it's transactional and it's temporary.
Precisely. Influence, on the other hand, is something you earn. It is internal and it's enduring. You earn it through your behaviors, your competence, your character.
And the key point there is?
You don't need permission to have influence. Not from your boss, not from HR. You start earning it right now by being consistent, by knowing your stuff, and by delivering value.
Can you give me an example?
Sure, think about a new data analyst joining a team. Day one, they have zero authority. But if they deliver one killer analysis that changes the whole strategy for a project, they instantly gain influence through pure competence.
That distinction authority as a loan you're given, influence as a skill you own, that's a huge differentiator. It means leadership isn't just for the C-suite. It's a behavior anyone can practice.
And that brings us actually right to the second major takeaway, which the sources describe as the hardest pill to swallow.
Oh, why is that?
Because if influence is built on your character and your behavior, well, you have to look inward first. It's all about self-leadership.
I can see why that's the hardest. It's so much easier to blame a bad boss or a slow process than it is to look at your own discipline.
Of course.
But his point is, if you can't lead yourself, your emotions, your reactions, your schedule, your attitude, Why would anyone trust you to lead other people?
This is where the source material gets really deep, because it moves beyond just org charts and into personal accountability. Scroggins puts a huge emphasis on governing your own small kingdom.
Governing your own small kingdom. What does that mean in a practical day-to-day sense?
It means mastering your internal environment so it isn't dictated by the external one.
Yeah. Okay, give me an example of that. Because when a deadline gets missed because of someone else's mistake or a boss is just behaving badly, it's natural to react negatively.
It is natural, absolutely. But leadership is about choosing a disciplined response over a natural reaction.
So what does that look like?
Okay, say you get frustrating news, a project gets canceled, your budget is cut. The reactive employee vents publicly, complains to coworkers, becomes cynical.
We've all seen that person.
We have. The self-led individual, though, they process that frustration, maybe privately, but they maintain an even keel publicly. And they immediately pivot to asking, okay, given this new reality, what's our best next step?
So you instantly elevate your influence just by demonstrating emotional stability and proactive thinking, even if you aren't the one who made the decision.
You got it. It's not about suppressing frustration. It's about transforming it into actionable, positive energy.
Because if you come across as disorganized or always reacting or blaming other people for missed deadlines,
You're signaling to everyone that you can't be trusted with more responsibility. The analogy they use is, if you can't manage your own small schedule, your own integrity, your own attitude, why would anyone give you the keys to a bigger organizational kingdom?
that is blunt but very necessary advice.
Okay, so once we've locked down that internal control, we've mastered our small kingdom, the next question is, how do you apply that discipline outward to actually build influence?
Right.
And this leads to that final, really fascinating takeaway. Stop thinking like an employee who just does tasks and start thinking like an owner.
This is the big organizational viewpoint shift. It's about consciously adopting the perspective of the leadership team, even when you're not on it.
So move beyond just checking the boxes of your job description.
Exactly. Start focusing on the organization's biggest, hairiest challenges. You have to start asking, what problems is my boss losing sleep over? What's the biggest point of friction in this company that nobody is solving?
So it's about finding the organizational gap, the pain points that are outside your immediate job, but within your ability to help. That's it. And this is where the source material gives really concrete advice on how to do this respectfully, or as they put it, how to challenge up.
Challenge up. I like that.
The key isn't just pointing out a problem. I mean, anyone can complain. The key is showing up with analysis and a proposed solution.
Okay, so what are the mechanics of challenging up effectively? Because challenging your boss, even with a good idea, can feel like you're stepping on toes. It can be seen as presumptuous.
It can be if you do it wrong. Scroggins says it requires three things. First, research and data. You have to back up your idea with evidence, not just your opinion.
Makes sense.
Second, be solution-oriented.
Yeah.
You're not there to dump a problem on your boss's desk. You're there to deliver a well-thought-out, risk-mitigated solution. And third, timing and forum.
Meaning
You don't challenge a major decision in a big team meeting. You ask for a one-on-one, a focused discussion. When you do these things, your visibility shifts completely. You're no longer seen as just a reliable cog, but as a crucial strategic asset.
You're showing you can do the next job before you even have it.
That's the organic route to upward mobility.
Okay, let's zoom out for a second and talk context. The leadership book market is just flooded. It's overwhelming. What makes this approach stand out? Why does this specific message resonate so deeply with people?
I think the main differentiator is the voice, the experience. He's not writing as a CEO looking down from the summit, giving these generic high-level principles.
Right.
He writes as someone who was actually in that frustrating middle management layer for years. He gets the specific agony of having all this responsibility for teams, for outcomes, but not having the final say on resources or direction.
That relatability is his superpower. It's like getting coffee with a mentor who's actually been where you are.
It is. And we should say, while the source material notes his background is in church leadership, the principles are just universal.
I was going to ask about that, because the dynamics of human hierarchy, responsibility, influence, that's the same whether you're in a marketing department or a nonprofit.
Absolutely. Trust and competence are universal currencies. Now let's be balanced, because no playbook works for everyone.
Okay, pros and cons.
On the strong pro side, like we said, the book is described as intensely actionable. It gives you concrete steps. It's not just theory. And it's an easy read. It's conversational. It's encouraging.
Sounds great for our audience. But what are the limits? Who might find this advice falls a bit short?
The sources point to two main caveats. First, very seasoned senior leaders, the ones who already built their influence over decades, they might find some of the self-leadership concepts a little bit elementary.
A good reminder, maybe, but not groundbreaking for them.
Exactly. The second, and this is a really crucial nuance, is that the advice is much harder to implement in an extremely toxic work environment.
If you're in a place where initiative is actively punished or good ideas are ignored just because they didn't come from the right person, then the game changes completely.
It does. This whole philosophy relies on a foundation of basic trust and a somewhat rational organization. If you're in a truly toxic place, the book's advice becomes less of a career accelerator and more of a personal survival guide.
So it's about managing your own reactions until you can get out.
Right. The sources acknowledge that there's a point where no amount of influence can fix a totally broken system, and the best leadership move is to preserve your character and find a better place to use it.
That's a really important dose of reality. Looking at the general reader feedback, what's the most common response to this whole perspective shift?
Overwhelmingly, the most common word is freeing. Readers say it gave them the psychological permission to stop waiting and start owning their environment.
It's a playbook, an operating manual for the middle.
That's exactly it. And the fact that some critics wanted more dense academic research just confirms what it is, a practical manual for application, not a textbook to prove a theory. It's trying to change a behavior.
So let's bring this all home. What does this mean for you listening right now? If you feel frustrated because you think you don't matter just because you aren't the boss, this challenges you to completely shift that perspective.
Right.
Stop complaining about what you can't control, the authority that's lent to you, and start leveraging what you can control, the influence you build every single day. Leadership is not a title on a business card. It is a measurable, observable behavior.
And if we connect that to the big picture, the real power here is that it takes the locus of control away from some external org chart and puts it firmly back in your own hands, your own choices, your own actions. It's a real solution for that passivity that comes from always waiting for permission.
Which brings us to a final thought for you to carry forward, and it's built on that very principle of internal control.
If influence is earned entirely through character and competence and not granted by any title, that raises a really important question you can answer right now. What single self-governing habit related to your attitude, your schedule, or how you react when you're frustrated? What single habit could you change today that would most increase your influence tomorrow? Start there. Start with your small kingdom.